We're glad to have you. Thank you for coming and joining us here at Chat with Mac. For those of you that have been watching us, we appreciate you. We love that our viewership is growing. So press the subscribe button, share it with all your friends that you think would benefit from what we're talking about. And for those of you that are new to what we do, welcome, welcome, welcome. Nadeem, happy Saturday, sir. I hope you're resting.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm just so tired today. I think I need to take a nap. It's kind of 4 o'clock now, so it's not enough time to take a nap. But
an hour or two nap wouldn't hurt.
yeah, maybe watch something on TV and fall asleep watching it or something like that. Yeah,
a perfect Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening. Hey, so let's talk about something that's we've been seeing quite a bit of as of late, and that's compliance. Now, for those of you that have been watching us long enough, you probably heard, let's say go back 3 years, you heard that Nadeem talked about compliance and how it was going to be the way of, the way going forward as far as how businesses worked with other businesses. And now this year, especially, I mean, I have personally seen that grown exponentially, but it seems as if for a lot of companies, it's such a difficult undertaking. Tell us why that is.
So there's a few things that makes compliance hard. And before we get into that, I want to just set the stage right. So we're in Texas, right? That's where our headquarters is, and most of our clients are based in Texas. Mm-hmm. And just about a year ago, the thought around compliance used to be companies that have to be compliant. It was a formality, right? People didn't really want to do it. They did it just to get that good check mark or that stamp of approval.
Yeah.
And when we used to reach out to customers and say, hey, we can automate some of these things so that all your compliance documentation is in one place. We can assign different roles, handle all of that, automate all of that. And usually what we used to get back was, why would I want to make it easier for the auditors? I want to make it harder. So they'll just, get scared and give us the stamp of approval and we'll be in business. Now that perception has changed. Now customers are reaching out to us and asking, hey, we need to get compliant. So I try to gather some statistics of why that is. Some companies where they don't have any government oversight, certain industries, there is no compliance from the government no requirement from the government for compliance, but their customers are asking them to be compliant or they cannot do business with them.
Yeah.
So that's what's changing the whole industry. Now, why is it hard? Compliance is all about cadence. And that's why it's hard, because unless you have a cadence, a repeatable process, you're not going to stay compliant. You're going to fall out of compliance, because a lot of times what companies do is, they'll make that big push and, they'll bring outside people in, throw a lot of money at the problem, get consultants and get compliant, failing to realize that it's not a one and done type deal. Compliance is ongoing process. And if you're thinking that you can just get somebody in there and one time get that audit done and you're done, that's not how compliance works. Now, the other part of the issue, what makes it harder, is a lot of times companies still look at compliance as our customer just requiring it, or some government agency just requiring it, or maybe DOD just requiring it, and they just want to get that stamp of approval. They don't really care about compliance. They just want to get that stamp so they can do business with whatever department it is. And that's where the problem comes in. In my mind, in our mind, compliance is where it helps you improve your processes over time. Just a few days ago, I was talking to a customer and or a prospect, and the topic came up about incident response exercises, and I was like, look, we've been doing IT now for over 25 years. We've been doing a lot of these exercises over the years. Every time, I mean, bar none, every time we do one of these exercises, we always learn something new. And these are internal things to us, right? So we internally learn something new every time we do that incident response exercise. But if you're not learning something new, how many times are you going to keep repeating that? Eventually, you're going to give up because you're going to start to get lazy about it. And it's going to be like, oh, yeah, let's just rubber stamp it, and do this and get it done. And that's when things start to fall out of compliance. If you look at it just a formality, you're going about it the wrong way. Make it a part of your process so it actually brings value to the organization. And it's like in our case, our customers didn't, want us or ask us to be compliant. There was no requirement from our customers. We chose to be compliant because, hey, if we are going to build all these processes and cadence of processor for something, then might as well have an external auditor come in and do an audit so that we can be compliant anyway, which, I mean, we're doing all the work already, so might as well, get the auditors to basically, to go through everything, make sure we're doing everything right. And in the process, we did learn certain things, like the CPAs who do the audit, they actually did make some minor tweaks to some of our processes, which was really good. I mean, because there's so many moving parts when it comes to IT. There's third parties, there's vendors, there's all kinds of stuff, right? So, but we learned something from that process of getting our SOC 2 audit done. And every time we do our process on an annual or quarterly basis, we always learn something. For example, when we have our daily huddles, right? It's so yeah, we can have a daily huddle, but then the compliance piece requires that we take minutes of the meeting.
Yeah.
And that's when we started doing that, keeping minutes of meeting, and it is so helpful that you can just refer back to minutes of the meeting. Or to me, it's helpful because, like, I take all my notes in OneNote, so I can just search in OneNote. Because if I remember something vaguely, we talked about some topic in some huddle, I just search for that and it takes me straight to that huddle and I know what we talked about and what the details were. So it improves us, it improves our process, it improves things for us going forward. If you are looking at compliance from that sense, that it's actually bringing value to the organization, then it's not hard. It's going to be easy and you will keep up with it. But if you look at it as just a burden, it's just a formality that you have to get done, then it's always going to be an uphill battle, and it'll never bring the value that it has the potential to bring to the organization.
So is that why? Now, okay, so you really touched on a lot of things as it pertains to compliance. What I've been trying to get my head wrapped around is, and maybe a lot of the small businesses haven't gotten the memo yet, eventually there's going to be government intervention or government regulations as it pertains to IT, especially with it being unregulated. To me, I'm not a bona fide business owner, but to me it would be like, I'm seeing the winds of change. Let me get ahead of it. Let me get this compliance together. And maybe that's what's happening because you talked about a guy you were talking to. I actually talked to a guy yesterday who was saying that within his business, they are ISO, and there's so many different things, but there's some other things now that he's looking at. It just baffles me how, with everything that's gone on, where you wouldn't just say, let me just get ahead of this so that my customer base can feel confident I don't,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and and that's why we decided to go through our SOC 2 audit. We didn't have to, but the reason for doing that is now we can go and tell prospects and customers with a straight face that, hey, we are really doing the things that we say we are doing. We
yeah,
do have a cadence of things, and we measure that, our compliance. So just like you measure any other process in your business, you want to make sure that you put things in place where you can measure compliance. Like, what value is that compliance getting you? Because once you start to measure it, of course, then you can control it better. But that will, when you start to see that value, you're going to make sure that it keeps happening. Now, right now, it's a great place to be at to get compliant, because regulations are going to come down. There is going to
yeah,
be a baseline that is going to be set. Every company has to meet this baseline if they have anything to do with IT, which pretty much any industry out there has something to do with IT, right? I mean, you've got systems in place, unless you're, on pen and paper. So that baseline is going to be there, and now is the time to get ahead of it and build your process around compliance or your cadence for things that you have to do. An interesting question that somebody asked me one time is, would you scale first, or would you get compliant first? And I was like, you have to get compliant so you can scale.
yeah,
If you don't have a cadence of processes built already, you're going to have a very tough time scaling.
yeah.
It's hard to scale. But if you have your processes and everything already set on a cadence, it's much easier for you to scale. So it's not really a chicken and egg problem when somebody says, hey, would you be a large company and then start to look at compliance, or would you look at compliance first and then become a large company? Well, I think you wouldn't.
If you were to, the way I imagine it, if you were to get compliant first, it would grow as the company grows with
It would help you. It would make
you.
your journey easier.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, and that's what the name of the game is, and that's one of the reasons why we got our SOC 2 audit done, is because it was like a perfect storm. There was impending government regulation. There was customers asking them to be compliant. So it was like, well, we get ahead of this first,
yeah,
and and then of course we are growing, so we were like, okay, how do we get a good tight handle on our processes? And if we are going to put the effort in to get a tight handle on our processes, might as well go through that audit and get it done officially, right?
yeah,
I mean, we're putting in the work, might as well get the certificate of approval at the end, right?
yeah,
It's like
yeah.
it's like you're taking the exam anyway, might as well get your degree at the end as well.
So, do you think now? I mean, and this is a message we've been screaming from the mountaintops since forever. Well, yeah, since forever now. Do you think it's one of those things where, for example, we work with companies that are 20 users or more? For the person that is 10 users, let's just say. Yeah, I mean, wouldn't this affect them the same? Would this have the same effect, or would they not have to worry about it until, I guess, what you were saying before, where they grow? Because I get, this is the reason I ask that. When I call individuals, that's what I get. We're too small. We only have 5 people here. We don't have to worry about compliance and all of that. And I get that a lot from those type of small business owners.
Yeah, and those are, the companies where there are issues, there are inefficiencies built into the process. And if they were to, now, of course, it also depends on what their end goal is, right? Maybe it's a small company and their goal is just to get by every day and just do the bare minimum. So if you have big goals, then you would want to get compliant and get compliance sooner, because that's going to improve your scalability. You can scale much faster and in much bigger steps if you had these processes and things set on a cadence. It's almost like, a startup, a small company, a few users. They don't need to have even weekly meetings. Maybe they can get away with a monthly meeting, right? Some of them don't even have meetings. They just do it on an ad hoc basis. Hey, if I need to say something, I'll just yell loud enough, everybody will hear me, right? But if you do have a daily, weekly, monthly meeting on a cadence, now you have that process in place. Now you can scale it much better, because as you grow, you take that culture with you, right?
That's good.
And so first you might be small, it might be just a company-wide thing, and as you grow, it might become a department-wide thing, so on and so forth. The structure is the same. It's just broken down into smaller and smaller pieces. So if you have that in place, then you're already set to scale at a much better pace. Now, of course, at the end of the day, if there is no interest in scaling, or you're not really pursuing any growth goals or anything like that, then it doesn't matter, right? But most companies that we work with, they are pretty aggressive as far as growth goes. I mean, they have pretty aggressive goals, and that's why most of our customers, they stay with us for years and years, and for a very long time. So companies that do not have aggressive growth plans usually don't last with us very long.
That's true. Right? I've noticed that. Yeah.
I mean, if you're a 5-user company and you see that in 10 years you're still going to be a 5-user company, it's not going to work out between us, because what we do is we want to make sure that we are continuously giving scalability and efficiencies from an IT perspective to our customers. And if there is no vision there, you can find somebody a lot cheaper working out of their garage to do the stuff.
Yeah. Right? And the funny thing about what you're saying is that since I've been here at PCSN, the thing that I've noticed is that some of the customers that we have or have had that have gotten bought out by bigger companies, those bigger companies that have bought them out have marveled and really remarked positively at how prepared they were on the IT front, and how minimum work that they had to do because we prepared them for that,
Yeah, and not only that, but in a lot of cases, we actually started to engage with the company that bought them out. Like, I remember clearly there was one of our customers, they got bought out by a private equity firm, and that private equity firm then had us do some project work for them, which was unrelated to this company that they bought, because they saw that what we do is at a very different level compared to what a lot of other IT companies do. A lot of IT companies are like, okay, we're going to put a body in so and so customer's place. This person's going to go there every day. Nobody's really looking at what this person is doing. I mean, the process is not there. So in IT, it's not about throwing people at a problem. It's about your processes. If you don't have that process, you can put 100 people on something and they're all pulling in different directions, not getting anywhere. So now one of the things that I do want to touch on is that, like anything in business, measure the effectiveness of your compliance programs. That's what a lot of companies miss as well. So, and I believe there was a study done by Deloitte a while back, and it showed that 70% of firms don't try to even measure. I mean, they're not even measuring the effectiveness of their compliance program, much less that they're learning anything new. Like, if I want to put a program in place, a compliance program in place at PCSN, I want to measure it because I want to see that I am getting some return out of it, right? And 70% of the companies are not measuring that, much less learning something new from these processes that they have in place. Like I said, that incident response exercise that we do, and every time we learn something new, we tweak our response extra. Not only are we, so there's multiple levels of it, right? We're learning something from our internal incident response exercise, and then we're taking what we learned and then implementing it with our customers. Yeah. So it's a win-win-win situation. Yeah. We learn, and then we take what we've learned and implement it with our customers. every company out there, whether you make widgets or whether you make farms, whatever it is, whether you make holes in the ground, if you have a compliance requirement, make sure and measure it, and that way you can see the effectiveness of it, and then take that knowledge that you're gaining and start implementing it with your customers. And your customers are going to be so much happier, because that's where the proactive piece comes into play when it comes to IT, is that, putting new stuff in place to make systems more efficient. So with that, everybody have a great day and be safe out there. Mac, you have an awesome weekend.
You too, sir. See you guys.
Bye.